Okay, so the presentation of today will be an interactive presentation, so please feel free to bring your mobile phones next to you. You will be needing them for the upcoming activities. So I'll start by showing you this very brief video together, and I would like you to notice the classroom dynamics within this class. And after watching a snippet from this video, I'll be asking you some questions. So let's start. Me move on to the next slide. So here, as we can see, so the video was part of it was to show the classroom dynamics, and which is like a static kind of classroom. So it's like teacher-centered, not student-centered. So interaction, there is most interaction on the part of students, and basically it was the teacher who was asking, and every time he was asking, anyone has the answer to this, and the students, they did not interact with the teacher. And that is to come to the conclusion to talk about the different teaching approaches. And here we can see on the screen, so the different styles of teaching. For example, we have lecture mode, the teacher-led interaction. It's the teacher who chooses who's going to speak next. The student-paired interaction, we can have a pair work, for example, or the lecture discussion. So we can have an interaction pattern, which is between a teacher and students, or the student-led interaction, which is the most important part that we're going to focus on today. Now, I'd like to ask you a question, and I don't want you to give the answer for the moment. How do you perceive the future of education, future education? How do you see it? And for this, we're going to conduct together, if possible, if you all agree with me, a short visualization exercise on the next video. So please feel free to choose a comfortable position, and let's start the visualization exercise together. Okay, so since you're not going to listen to my audio clearly, so I'll be conducting the visualization exercise, and I'd like you to follow up with me, please. Okay. Welcome everyone to this exceptional visualization exercise about sustainable city. So welcome everyone to this visualization exercise about sustainable cities. I'd like you to close your eyes, please, and try to think about how your day started today, from the very first moment you woke up until the moment you're attending this session today. So how did it start? Your morning coffee, how did you go? Like if you're attending this online, what are the, let's say, the routine you did before you log into Zoom? Or if you're attending the conference in person, how did you come up to the conference venue today? So I'll give you some time to take this walkthrough in your mind. Now, I want you to imagine the city or the community you live in right now. Picture a daily commute, the one you take it from home to your office. Visualize the roads, people you see, the buildings, parks, if any. How do people react? What are they doing? What are the expressions on their faces? Now, imagine that you are in the year 2030. And the world is a much better place. So how would it be? Could you hear me, please? I hope you can hear me. I'm not sure you can hear me.
You are audible. You are
Excuse
audible.
me?
Everyone can hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay, so let me share my screen again. I thought like I was not. Okay, so now, so all the ideas that you have in mind, you're not going to share them in the chat box, but instead, I'd like you please to log into menti.com and type the code you see on the screen or scan the QR code and answer the question you see on the screen. How did you perceive the sustainable city? And most specifically today, we are concerned about sustainable education. So I'll give you some time to either scan the QR code or type the code you see on the screen. So is it visible to everybody? Can you confirm, please, by typing yes or no in the chat, please? Yes, thank you, Maria. Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to check the results on Mentimeter together. Normally, we should be able to see the keywords on the word cloud on the screen. So if you need me to go back to the QR code, please let me know. Here's it again. So what is sustainable education according to you? So for those who didn't manage to have access to Mentimeter, so I'll be glad to read in your suggestions in the chat box if possible. So how do you perceive sustainable education? Okay. So most of all here, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, so people are talking about SDGs a lot, but we forgot to mention that we should talk about the Millennium Development Goals first and foremost. So these goals, they were initiated a long time ago and they were restricted to 8 goals. As you can see, some of them for poverty, hunger, the others, they're related to primary education, then gender equality, and issues back in the past that were related to child mortality, because most of the children, they did not manage to survive due to some diseases and viruses at that particular time. But after this, after talking about the MDGs, now we're talking about the famous SDGs, the 17 goals that you see on the screen, which include a broader scopes, as you can see. And today, most specifically, we'll be focusing about quality education to help children all around the world, regardless of the geographical location, regardless of the resources. All children, they should have access to the same quality education. So we're no longer talking about access to education nowadays, but we're talking about how valuable it should be. So first, as I said, let us define what is sustainable education in this case, since we said it has been a trend nowadays. So to sustain, as we all know, so it's to maintain, it's not only related to the environmental aspect, as we can see for the second definition. And I've also relied on ChatGPT and OpenAI, a part of inclusive research, to look up for what is the definition to sustainability according to OpenAI. So here it's the same almost, which is maintaining the same impact at 3 levels that we're going to see later on, which is the mental, the social, and the economic levels. And we speak about sustainable education regardless of the language. So there is no central focus to education. It's decentralizing education towards broader scopes. And this is an example of a word cloud for what is sustainable education. It's lifelong, prospective, it should be responsible, goal-driven, collective, timeless, durable, and inclusive. Now, here we go to talking about Bloom's digital taxonomy and the SDGs. And as a teacher, I've applied the Bloom's digital taxonomy in my teaching approach. And my target is quality education, as I said, it's about the value and having an impact more than just providing information and data to my students. So part of this was conducted through PBL. And other parts, like it was through associations, student associations. So now, the ESD, which is the acronym for Education for Sustainable Development, started with the as a UNESCO initiative, and let's say the target is by 2030. The UNESCO, they target that all stakeholders should achieve the 17 SDGs at that time. So that's why I did the visualization exercise at the beginning of the presentation, so that to let you imagine and travel in the future to see how would the world be, and most specifically education, in 2030. Now, we speak about the 3 Ps framework for sustainable goals. 3 Ps, which stand for people, planet, and profit. People, which includes the social dimension. The planet, it includes the environmental dimension, and the economic, of course, most and foremost for everyone, like whoever studies, they seek to work. And if they seek to work, so they will be improving all of the previous ones, including their social status, their parents. Sometimes education is seen by the family as a rescue plan to a whole generation. So, and the pillars we talked about, here are they, and including the SDGs accordingly. And as we can see, the partnership goal is the axis and the common point between all, which is partnership for the goals. And now I'm going to narrow this down to talking about my country, Tunisia, and also the MENA region, not only Tunisia, because Tunisia is part of the Middle East and North Africa region. And as you can see, the overall performance of Tunisia is like 69 over 163 as a rank in the world, in the global, let's say, ranking. And the score is like 70.7% as an average. And so as you can see on the dashboard below, so some of the goals were achieved. For example, the ones that are in significant kind of achievement, like in green. The ones that need significant challenge, they are in orange, and the ones that need really reforms, let's say, they are in red. So still a lot of effort should be done at all levels. And most specifically, we should maintain whatever we achieved until now. As for education, which is goal 4, as you can see, there is a green arrow, which symbolizes an achievement, a milestone that should be kept for future generations. So now I'm going to take you in a journey as usual. So as I started with this, like all of you, you're familiar with the photo that you see on the right side of the screen. I belong to that generation when I had to go to the library and search for information, so that and search for books, and it was not accessible at my research period when I was doing my master's degree at that particular time. I still remember that. And there was something very common that I can find every time on the screen, which is the 404 error. Every time there was kind of censorship at a particular time before the Tunisian revolution. So whenever we'll be looking for information, it was banned. After, now we're talking about open educational resources, inclusiveness, information available at hand. So now it's up to the learner to learn or not. And as you can see now, so we started talking about education outside the frames of the classroom. And in the Tunisian case here, the students, they learn in NGOs. And as you can see, like the education, we have like 157 NGOs. They are, let's say, they are focusing on improving education, or they're working within the educational framework. Here, I've chosen for you 4 examples of NGOs active in promoting sustainable education, which is Enactus Tunisia, the association Wallah We Can, and the Tunisian International Model United Nations, and the EFE, which is the Education for Employment. So I was a jury member for my students enacting their pitch, they're pitching their projects for Enactus. And I'll be talking about the role of English in all this, how English was used as a communicative tool and also as a competence builder for students. So here, students, they use their problem-solving skills to identify solutions and to create let's say, solutions based on those complex issues, and they have to pitch this in front of jury members. And part of this, the jury members, including myself, so they give individual team evaluation form based on their performance, based on the impact of their project, the 3 levels we talked about, the environmental, the social, and the economic. And also the criteria of evaluation included the language fluency in English. And apart from the feedback in the last section, in the last part, I provided them with feed forward, because I believe that feedback is always backwards. So feed forward is how can they proactively provide solutions to their sustainable projects. And this is their mission and vision in Actus. So entrepreneurship, action, and us, a sense of community, sense of belonging, collectiveness. Also, this is the Time Moon, and how did we apply the ESP in the Model United Nations example? So we modeled a simulation of a Model United Nations here, and this helped participants anchor themselves in public speaking skills. How do they use the English in order to communicate personal and worldly issues at the same time? This is an example that you can see on the screen. Now I'm going to talk about a perfect example of a sustainable school being now active in Tunisia, and through this association, Wallah We Can. And they have created a kind of what we call a green school. And this school is sustainable at all levels, which means it has created independence and self-sufficiency at all levels. It has even provided jobs for parents, including how they produce fruit and they got using that fruit in school, in the school canteen. And they basically relied on PBL pedagogy and focusing on relevant issues to the area they're living, which is Makthar. And I don't know, because of shortage of time, I won't be able to play the video, but I really encourage you to follow up with Wallah We Can online. They have a variety of videos and how they achieve the sustainable approach in model in Tunisia. And now, since we're talking about entrepreneurship in education, so I allowed myself to create a portmanteau word, which is a combination of 2 words, which is entrepreneurship in education, Edupreneurship. And the list of skills, it goes with like taking initiative, leadership, creativity, using interpersonal skills, critical thinking skills, networking. And now we go beyond talking about 21st century skills to talking about a 4-dimensional framework, which is the 4D education. And let me explain the intersection, how it goes. So we have a set of skills that include the 21st century skills, but still we have the intersection with the knowledge, what the person already knows, the character of the person, how does the person behave in a particular situation or in that particular context, and meta learning. So we let our students think, how do they learn? So learn to learn, and they learn how even to learn. They reflect on that. So as you can see here, the skills, they're the ones we're all acquainted with, like the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration. And we talk about the character now: mindfulness, how to be there in space and time, how to instill the curiosity, the curious mind, and how to give them the grit, the courage to follow their dreams, resilience, in case they feel something, how can they bounce back from that, how to follow ethics. For example, I've used a lot of professionals, they're scared from ChatGPT. I've used it in class with full confidence, and I taught my students how to do that. And I've even told them that even though you use that, please try to follow certain ethics in that, because that will be the future. AI, it's the future now. And of course, most importantly, the leadership skills. Also, we talked about meta learning and a metacognition and growth mindset. So the growth mindset is like here, the elevation, just like in the pyramid metaphor. So we're no longer talking about pedagogy in the bottom part of the pyramid, but we're going upwards. And here, since we talked about the 21st century skills, now we can talk about transferable skills. How can we take those skills from the classroom to the labor market for entrepreneurship? So ESP, we use it in public speaking, and we can talk about English for employability. And here is an example where English for employability was launched as a project with the British Council in Tunisia. And here, the list of skills you can see on the screen, they're all included. So this is a summary. So I'm not going to cite them one by one because there are many. But as you can see, you can recognize most of them, like creativity, flexibility, goal-oriented. And as a teacher, I've used a sustainable approach in my lessons, which is using mobile phones in class a lot to conduct such a project. So we're going to watch a short video, 1-minute video, where my students, they have promoted their NGO in a short video that they have recorded themselves.
Hey, stop it, kids. What did I already tell you? If I see one more out of the I will get serious action.
1 minute.
Yes, so that is to tell you that how sustainability can be applied, like project can be conducted 100% by students. So I'm just going to a little bit skip some parts to talk about the Tunisian Startup Act, which is one of the acts that labeled how can students have that, can create their own companies, and they have the government support for this. And this is to facilitate them being entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, let's say, even before graduation, to have their own projects so they can work hire their friends, and they are ready for the labor market. And finally, as takeaways, in order to navigate the classrooms of the future, we can talk about global citizenship education. So it's like, globally speaking, it's kind of a passport. It will enable every student, regardless of the time and space, to be fit into whatever context they're put in, including all the skills that you see on the screen. And thank you for your attention. And this is my LinkedIn QR code, just in case you want to keep in touch with me. Thank you very much for your attention.